All right, good evening. I'd like to call this village board meeting to order on Tuesday, June 18, 2024, and ask if you would all please rise and join the village board in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee LaBedz?
Here.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Here.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Here.
Trustee Bertucci?
Here.
Trustee Shirley?
Here.
Trustee Baldino?
Here.
Trustee Dunnington?
Here.
Trustee Grasse?
Here.
President Hayes?
Here. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and we have two sets to approve tonight. The first is from our village board meeting of June 3rd, 2024. Are there any changes or passes? If not,
I'll move to approve the village board meeting minutes from June 3rd, 2024.
Second.
motion by trustee Grasse, seconded by trustee LaBedz. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And next, our committee of the whole meeting minutes from June 10, 2024. Any changes or passes? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd move approval of the Committee of the Whole minutes of 6/10/2024.
Second.
Motion by trustee LaBedz, seconded by trustee Schwingbeck. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is the approval of the accounts payable, and I call on trustee Bertucci.
I'll move approval of the warrant register for the check date 6/15/2024 in the amount of $3,516,094.19.
Second.
Motion by trustee Bertucci, seconded by trustee Baldino. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Melissa?
What's the Criminal Investigation Fund?
Mr. Recklaus, our chief?
Criminal Investigations Fund is a fund that's set up with forfeiture funds that we receive from agencies that we work in cooperation with, and we use those funds for purchase of kind of one-off or unique law enforcement expenses, and it eliminates the need to pay for those items with taxpayer money.
Meaning if law enforcement determines that assets were gained by illicit means, then they are allowed to seize the assets, and that goes into this fund?
Yeah, there's some limits to it, but yes, the funds that we receive through those means go into that fund and then have to be used for certain law enforcement purposes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Melissa. Anyone else wish to comment on the warrant register? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Shirley?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. Well, next, under recognitions and presentations, we have a very special oath to administer this evening to our newest police canine, Atlas. And so the village is very excited and proud to introduce the newest member of the Arlington Heights Police Department's public safety team. This is Canine Atlas. Canine Atlas is a 2.5-year-old German Shepherd who was imported from Germany earlier this year. The Arlington Heights Police Department partnered with the Kane County Sheriff's Department, a canine program, to not only assist in acquiring our newest canine, but also to conduct the rigorous training necessary to both the canine and the handler to achieve mandated state of Illinois canine certification. The necessary process of selecting a canine is not an easy task. Dozens of working breeds from all over the world are vetted for their temperament, suitability for job functions, and sometimes the hardest part, identifying a personality that is commensurate with the police department and the community's expectations. In this case, Canine Atlas has thus far proven a great fit, graduating from the Kane County Canine Training Program alongside handler Officer Jeff Heffernan on June 7th. Officer Heffernan was selected as Canine Atlas's handler and law enforcement partner. Arlington Heights Police canine handlers must display a strong commitment to the program and the community they serve. Officer Heffernan has been police officer since 2018. He is the recipient of numerous awards for his efforts in impaired driving enforcement and was a nominee for the Police Department's prestigious L.W. Calderwood Officer of the Year Award in 2021. Officer Heffernan was selected for this assignment based on his established work ethic and willingness to go above and beyond in all assignments. While we are here tonight to introduce K9 Atlas, a special acknowledgement is afforded to Officer Heffernan for his commitment and dedication to the village's overall public safety mission. The police department's first dog patrol K9 Sarge started with the department in the late 1970s. K9 Sarge was stationed at the Arlington Park racetrack with a primary responsibility of patrolling the grounds. Following a multi-decade hiatus, the program was reintroduced in 2008. Since that time, the program grew from demonstrated successes and changing needs of law enforcement. The police department currently maintains one K9 on each patrol shift. K9 Atlas and Officer Heffernan will be assigned to the afternoon shift, working between the hours of 3 p.m. and 11 p.m. K9 Atlas is the police department's 7th dual-purpose patrol dog that has or is still serving our great community. The K9 program is funded through court-awarded asset forfeiture dollars. Monies seized from criminal enterprises are appropriately redirected to pay for law enforcement resources. And so now, I would like to invite Officer Heffernan and K9 Atlas to join me up front so that I may administer the oath of office. Let me go over here. All right, K9 Atlas, over here. If you raise your right paw and repeat after me, I, K9 Atlas, having been appointed as a police officer in the village of Arlington Heights in the county of Cook, do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office according to the best of my ability. And we know you will, Atlas. Can we get a woof? All right. Well, I think she said, or he said yes. All right. Congratulations. All right.
Mayor, I'd like to present Officer Heffernan and K9 Atlas with the department's shield to signify they're joining the police department. Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Jeff, do you want to say a few words? You want to say a few words?
Of course, thank you.
Yeah.
Good boy. He wants to talk as well. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight, my coworkers as well as the citizens and the trustees. Atlas is a really incredible animal who I think has a lot of outstanding work ahead of him. I'd like to thank everyone for their ongoing support of the K9 unit and the police department. And if you see us anywhere around town, please stop by and say hi. He loves to make friends. So,
All right. Thank you. And you want to try it? You want to get a picture? Okay.
Look at that pose.
Tom, are these all ours?
Yeah, this is the rest of our K9 force, right? And so we got everybody here tonight. Thank you for all you do to keep our community safe, both you and your K9s.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's awesome.
Do we have 4 then?
Lot of energy.
Thank you. You can tell he's the youngest.
That was fun.
All right. Well, we move on then to citizens to be heard. And I do have one blue card from an individual who wants to speak on an item not on the agenda. And again, these are, and this is an opportunity for members of the audience to address the board on items not on the agenda. And we just ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And so, Bill Manganaro. Bill, welcome.
And it's a hard G, Manganaro.
Oh, sorry about that.
No problem. I get worse than that.
Okay.
And I won't take anything like 3 minutes. President Hayes, I understand and appreciate that you made an acknowledgement and a congratulations at the committee of the whole meeting. I wasn't able to be here, but I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate the appointment of Trustee Nicolle Grasse to be the state representative for the 53rd District in the General Assembly of Illinois. As a resident of both the village and District 53, Trustee Grasse, I'm grateful for the leadership you bring to this board. Representative Grasse, I know you will bring this level of leadership for us in Springfield. Congratulations and thank you.
All right, thank you. Congratulations again, Nicole. All right, is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the board on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll close then the citizens to be heard portion and move on to old business. And we do have one item to report out from our committee of the whole meeting from earlier this evening, and I call on Trustee Grasse.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I move now, as I did earlier this evening, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Riley Phillips for appointment to the Youth Commission as youth member, term ending April 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Grasse, seconded by Trustee Schwingbeck. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Riley, if you come forward to the podium. And you're going to have to do more than Atlas did. And so let me just find the oath. Here we go. And if you raise your right hand and repeat after me, I, and state your full name,
I, Riley Phillips,
having been appointed to the Youth Commission
have been appointed to the Youth Commission
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations, you did it. Come on. Present you first with the village logo pin to wear proudly as an appointed representative of this board and this community, and also ask you to sign your oath with our village clerk, Becky Hume. So congratulations again. There is no other old business, and so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any members of the board who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Trustee Dunnington.
Mayor Hayes, I wanted to remove items B and E, and E.
Is it B or C? You want Hannah?
B, Hannah, and
Yeah, to the
E,
B.
the sign variation.
All right, so we're removing consent legal B. That's the Hannah Neighborhood Signage and Traffic Flow Improvement Ordinance. And E, the resolution further extending the term of sign variations for an electronic billboard sign located at 2200 West Euclid Avenue. Any other members of the board wish to remove items on the consent agenda? Any members of the audience wish to remove an item? Melissa?
Yes, consent, legal G and I.
All right, I thought we were going to have a short meeting. G is the ordinance, organized retail crime grant, and I is the ordinance, the organized retail crime grant. So any other members of the audience wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none. Any members of the board wish to vote no or pass on any item, remaining item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the remaining items.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Tinaglia, seconded by Trustee Baldino. Roll call.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Shirley?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. Well, there's no new business, so we'll move right into the removed legal items, and let's just take them in the order that they're listed in the agenda. Consent legal B. Mr. Ecklas?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. The village, the engineering department has, will review requests from neighborhoods for signage and traffic flow improvements when they come in. And the Hannah neighborhood is one that was where we looked at crash data and we looked at the configuration of the various intersections within the neighborhood and made a determination that a number of changes were warranted based on our standards. We had sent letters to 560 residents, put information out via the village's website and social media channels, and the residents were presented with proposed concepts. 57 comments were received, and after evaluating the comments and looking at all the warrants, looking at all the information, staff prepared a project proposal that includes implementing changes at 15 of the 62 intersections in that neighborhood. And what we're really trying to do is prevent accidents, and these are all improvements that we believe will enhance safety in that neighborhood. Specifically, the thing that you'll see the most is there's a number of uncontrolled intersections in that neighborhood where you come to the intersection and neither the east-west nor the north-south traffic has a stop sign. And so, while the under the rules of the road, there is a procedure for establishing who has the right-of-way, it's very often something that's a source of confusion for motorists and something we can eliminate by doing what we've done in other neighborhoods by implementing the basket weave system of putting a stop sign every other block when those situations arise. And so staff believes that the proposed changes will improve safety at those intersections and create a more consistent and intuitive traffic pattern within the neighborhood for everybody involved. And so we would recommend approval of the ordinance designating stop signs on the above intersections and authorize the village manager to execute the necessary documents.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Ecklas. Before we move on, Riley and your mother are welcome to leave unless you want to stay and listen to the rest of the meeting, but you're welcome to leave. You have been approved, so your decision. I know you have more exciting things to do than... All right, good. All right, well, she's showing her dedication. So, Trustee Dunnington, let me go to you first.
Okay, thank you. So first, I want to say thank you to Public Works and the Engineering Department and all the residents who took the time to provide comments for the project. I do think that these new stop signs will help with safety and improve the traffic flow in the Hannah neighborhood. The village board receives a lot of emails about speeding in residential neighborhoods, and we know that speeding has really gone up since the pandemic. And so I really just wanted to note that the stop signs are not traffic calming measures for speeding. And so I wanted to share that Mount Prospect recently approved a Friendly Neighborhood Streets program that's focused on residential areas. And some key parts of their plan are for traffic calming measures that are for speeding, and it shows like it shows the costs for all the different traffic calming measures. It also has a detailed process of how residents can request projects in their neighborhood, and I think it also does a really good job of defining speed data better than how we currently measure it. And so I did share the plan with Mr. Ecklas, and I know that our staff is reviewing the plan, but I just wanted to encourage our board members and have the chance for our residents to take a look at the Mount Prospect plan, because I think that we should adopt a similar written formal plan for Arlington Heights, because I think that we can use a lot of what they've already adopted and just use it for Arlington Heights.
Okay, thanks. I would just question one thing that you said. I personally think that a stop sign is a speed calming device, a traffic calming device.
It's actually proven that it's not.
Well, that's my personal opinion. I think certainly if somebody's speeding down a street and they are forced to stop at a stop sign, it's going to slow them down. So that's my personal opinion. Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you very much. And I just thank you, Trustee Dunnington, for sharing that information. But I just want to say that as a resident of Hannah, I was thrilled to see this proposal come through. As a resident, I also received a letter that came through and I studied the changes carefully. In my opinion, the confusion is not so much that people are speeding from one place to another, is that trying to get through the intersections when there is no control is difficult, whether you are a pedestrian, and we have a lot of walkers in the neighborhood, and a lot of the streets or portions of streets don't have sidewalks, so you're in the street. And then, of course, a lot of people driving, and the streets are narrow, and sometimes the corners are not very, they're not blind completely, but as trees leaf out, it's not always easy to see the streets, the cars that are coming. And so I think that this will really be a big help in the neighborhood in terms of, just people knowing who goes next. And also that hopefully cars will, because they stop more, will be more on the lookout for the pedestrians and bicyclists in the area. So I thank staff for this very much. I really am appreciative of this new design, and having been on the board when the recreation park got the basket weave design, from what I gather, that's helped a lot in that neighborhood too. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Trustee Grasse.
Thank you. I too wanted to thank staff for addressing this issue in the Hannah area. And I want to thank Trustee Dunnington for bringing up the other options. I think it's always important to always be open to additional ways to keep us safer. As a runner in the area, especially in the Hannah district, I also know that there are not complete stops that happen often at stop signs. I have been almost the recipient of getting hit many times. So I'm always open to considering additional ways we can keep all of us more safe. So thank you.
Anybody else on the board? Mr. Moons.
Thank you. Thank you, President Hayes. I'm really glad to hear this discussion on the Hannah project. I want to commend the village staff for taking the initiative to address the safety issues in the Hannah neighborhood with speed control, with traffic flow and signage. But I do want to remind the Board of Trustees and the staff that there are several other neighborhoods that need safety improvement as well, especially, in the speed calming area, in that speed calming subject here. I just want to point out one thing, for example. There was a September 2022 traffic calming policy survey of 19 municipalities around us here. The village of Arlington Heights has arbitrarily set the speed threshold in order to assess whether a street is to be considered for traffic calming. Their threshold that was set by the staff is the 85th percentile to be higher than 40 miles an hour, 1,000 cars per day, and higher than normal number of incidents. That 85th percentile at 40 miles an hour is the highest by far threshold of any of the respondents. So as a result, based on that threshold, there is no speeding in Arlington Heights. There's none, according to that threshold, the way it's being measured, of any street in Arlington Heights. And we know that's not true based on village pedestrian and speed studies. So in my opinion, the speeding problem can be easily corrected here if the Board of Trustees and the staff implement a speed calming policy similar to some of the other towns around that were mentioned earlier tonight. And this speed calming policy would then set a common sense 85th percentile that registers where there is speeding and also has a fair voting policy as well. And if it puts that all into a policy, I think we can then move forward to addressing our speed problems in our streets here. So I would encourage the Board of Trustees to adopt a speed calming policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moons. Anyone else in the audience wish to address the board on this issue? Seeing none, go back to the board for further discussion or approval of
Mayor,
the ordinance.
if I could just,
Mr. Reckles,
I just
please.
add one thing. I do, I think it's, in response to Trustee Dunnington's comment, I mean, we certainly always are looking to learn at, better ways of doing things and identify best practices. And we are looking at the Mount Prospect document to see what we can glean from it. What are things in that document that we aren't doing? Some of the things we have identified are things we're already doing, but they perhaps could be communicated better. One of the things that I do want to note is that we do have a very robust and award-winning traffic safety program. Our police department, the Illinois Association of Chiefs and Police has a traffic committee that does a very, very thorough analysis of traffic programs across the state. And just last week, we received first place in the state of Illinois for having the best, most robust traffic safety program for a police department in the state. The other thing I'll point out is we've seen a dramatic decrease in traffic accidents within our community over the last 15 years. Traffic accidents have actually dropped by 33% in the last 15 years. And so while we absolutely can do better, and the only way you stay good is by looking at other departments and seeing who does what well and how can we convey this information, I did want to just tout that our police department and our engineer department are already doing good work in this area and in fact are being recognized as among the leaders in the state. And we have seen good results in terms of a reduction in accidents as well. I just want to make that point.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Reckles. Any further discussion? Trustee Bertucci?
Mayor, I'll move, just go ahead, and I hope I'm not stealing your thunder here, Robin.
Oh, no, please.
Okay, I'll move approval of the Hannah Neighborhood Signage and Traffic Flow Improvement Ordinance.
Second.
Motion by trustee Bertucci, second by trustee Grassi. Any further discussion? Anything from the audience? Roll call.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Shirley?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. We move on then to removed item E. That's the resolution for further extending the term of sign variations for an electronic billboard sign at 2200 West Euclid Avenue. Mr. Reckles.
Thank you, Mayor. Back in 2017, the village board approved sign variations allowing the construction of an electronic billboard sign at the Arlington Racetrack property adjacent to Route 53. Staff believes that the billboard location is unique with its adjacency to Illinois Route 53 and its proximity to other billboards that are just outside of village limits and along the same highway. It's one of those areas of town when you're driving on 53, you really don't know you're in Arlington Heights and you see other billboards. And so this was something we felt was a unique circumstance, different from other places in town where you're driving through a retail area or something that's quasi-residential and seeing a proliferation of signs. The billboard has been at this location for the past 7 years, and we feel it's in character with similar billboards just outside of Arlington Heights. And we feel that this is an appropriate location for a billboard. The current owners of the property wish to continue to use the billboard as they plan for the property's long-term development. The village remains in communication with the ownership and other area stakeholders regarding the potential redevelopment of the site and is actively engaged in working with all the stakeholders to resolve any open issues. And so while this interim period of determination of the future of the site is underway, staff is willing to support the request in expectation of the continuation of discussions of the property. But that's, so we would recommend approval.
All right, thanks, Mr. Reckles. Well, for all the reasons that Mr. Reckles just indicated and as were contained in the staff materials, I do support this extension. I do think, although we do have a policy of not having billboards in Arlington Heights, we do have exceptions to our policies and our ordinances and variations, and I think this really calls for such an exception. I've been in favor of this billboard from the start because I think it's apples and oranges in terms of how you characterize billboards. They're all billboards, but this is different than the billboard, for example, that we just put a moratorium on Rand Road. So I think this is totally different. It's an appropriate location for a billboard of this type, and I would be in support of the extension. So Trustee Dunnington, you pulled this off, so go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. So I agree with the original purpose of the billboard. It was to provide revenue for the racetrack and to attract more visitors and events to the racetrack. At the time, the racetrack was the largest employer in the village, and we also wanted racetrack visitors to patronize other village businesses. Since the racetrack is gone, I think it's time for the billboard to be removed. In my opinion, billboards are an eyesore, and this billboard also needs to be repaired. If you're driving north on Route 53, the billboard says Arlington International, but it's missing the letter L in International. Also, I've read that electronic billboards only last about 10 years. This one's about 7 years old, so it is coming close to the end of its life. So I don't think there's any benefit to Arlingtonites to having this billboard. So I think it's time for it to be removed, and I don't support extending the term to June 30th, 2025.
All right, any further comments? Any comments from the audience on this item? Do we have a motion? Trustee Grasse?
Oh, I had a comment, please.
Okay,
I think it's worthy of discussion about the value of the billboard. I am in agreement, in good faith and partnership with the current owner to continue for another year, but I do think it's important to reevaluate in a year's time and also ask for repair to the billboard.
Sure. We definitely can do that if that's the will of the board.
all right, Trustee Bertucci.
Mayor, I'll move approval of the resolution further extending the term of sign variation for an electronic billboard sign at the 2200 West Euclid Avenue location.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Bertucci, second by Trustee Schwingbeck, was it? Okay. Further questions or comments from the board? Can we just ask you what it would take to repair? Is there any other repairs that are required? If you come forward, if you would.
I'll introduce myself. My name is John Bostrom. I'm Senior Advisor of Operations and Safety for the Bears.
Stacy Nelson, Procurement and Operations with the Bears.
So to try to answer the question for you, we do have a company that monitors via camera the electronic board itself. So if there's something that arises, maybe a cell block is turning black, we have the ability to get it fixed locally through a vendor. So as far as the cost, that is something we'll take back to the team to evaluate and follow up with that request.
Yeah, I've noticed the missing letter as well. So, I mean, if you could take down all the letters, it would be an easy fix, or you could just put up one letter. But I don't think there's a big expense involved in that. Are there any other repairs that you're aware of?
None.
Necessary repair?
No, we had to replace a laptop just for, ongoing monitoring. The company alerts us, so they put in a ticket right away if there's any issues, and we have cameras on each side so we can see both sides of the screen. And absolutely, we can give it a facelift. I don't think that's an issue.
Okay, yeah, I'd ask you to do that.
Okay.
And then from a content standpoint, internally, there's a review process as to what goes on the board. So we're very conscious of that and putting tasteful information. Right now, there's Dunkin' Donuts and Bears content, so.
Okay. Any further questions from the board or the audience? Seeing none, we've got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington?
No.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Shirley?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on then to Legal G. That's the ordinance for the Organized Retail Crime Grant. Mr. Eckles, you want to take that?
Thank you, sure. G and I are somewhat related, so I'll describe them under the same statement. As many of you know, statewide retail crime has been on the rise, and the village is always looking at new ways to combat theft and stay ahead of it and respond to it. And one of the things we had evaluated was the creation of a real-time criminal intelligence center, which is a facility within the police station that can monitor information, as they state, in real time from various cameras and so forth, so that operational decisions can be made to deploy our resources and help, prevent and respond to criminal activity, with that electronic information. And so the police department was awarded a $183,000 grant from the Illinois Attorney General's Organized Retail Crime Program for the establishment of this center. 33,000 of that was was for fixed license plate recognition readers. These are similar to the readers that we have on many of our squad cars. And what they do is they're in a fixed location, very often kind of some of the regular entry points and exit points of our community, so that if someone is we find that a crime has been committed, and we have a vehicle that's suspect, type of vehicle, make and model, these cameras can pick it up and say, oh, we just had a red Toyota, whatever, go by this intersection at 9 a.m. with this license plate, and it gives officers the ability to track that. The other $150,000 is for the criminal intelligence software and licenses. And what that does, Fusus is the software that we use. And what Fusus does is companies and organizations that have security cameras already, and if they choose to, this is something they have to sign an agreement for, they can provide access for their security cameras to our system. And so if, for example, we find that there's criminal activity going on at some business, and they call us and they call 911, we can pull up those cameras immediately at the real-time information center. And so we can have someone in the office telling the officers, yes, there's someone who's here, they're in this corner of the building, we see them, doing whatever they're doing. And the officers that much more informed, can be that much more safe, can make more informed decisions tactically in terms of what they need to do to respond to the situation. And so it's safer for everybody involved and allows just more effective prevention and law enforcement all around. And so, we would recommend there's two ordinances. One that is an ordinance for Fusus, which is for Axon, the annual agreement for that software. The other one is an ordinance for Flock, which are the cameras, and that's an annual agreement for that as well. And staff would recommend approval of both items.
Any questions from the board on this? Trustee Grasse?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I'm actually grateful Melissa pulled these off, because this speaks to the hard work that our staff is doing to receive these grants. And I think it's really great to hear this. And I think this is one thing I learned right away when I came to the board about the consent legal. I might read all the specifics, but when we just pass it, many people in the community don't know the important work that our staff does. So thank you for that, and thank you, Melissa, for pulling that off. I think it's really important for people to hear those details.
Anything else from the board? Trustee Baldino?
I was just going to make a motion, Mayor.
Okay, please.
I would move that the village board waive the competitive bidding process for the fixed license plate recognition systems and approve the proposal from Flock Group, Inc. in the amount of $33,000, and authorize the village manager to enter into an agreement in accordance with the proposal.
Second. Motion by Trustee Baldino. Was it Trustee Tinaglia? Shirley?
Well,
Who got it?
I started, but I think Trustee Schwingbeck was saying.
All right.
I
Or
think
let's
we
give it
fought
to
over
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Mayor, I think.
Yeah, I know. We got Melissa.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so a private business would have these cameras?
Melissa, just talk in the microphone.
A private business, you would put cameras on a private business?
If
Of the
many
village?
businesses have security cameras already, and what it does is that they choose, that no one is compelling them to. If a private business wants to enhance their security by giving access to their cameras to the police department, that would be how that would work. And so some businesses want the added security of being able to have police departments dial into their cameras when there's an emergency. It's not something we would be, doing without any reason, but if there was a reason to be monitoring them, or if requested, then we would.
And then the street cameras, they're just on the village property, or are they on county streets as well?
Generally, they're going to be either on village property or if the property owner gives us permission to put them on there. It may be in some cases private or county property where they allow us to place one of our cameras on their property for this purpose.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything else from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Shirley?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. Do we have a motion on FUSIS?
I move approval of FUSIS.
Second.
Motion by trustee LaBedz, second by trustee Grasse. Any questions or comments from the board? Melissa, anything else?
This is for the software.
You'll have to come forward, Melissa.
The other one was for the cameras, and then this is for the software?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Any other questions from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Grasse? Excuse me, Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Shirley?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. That takes care of all our removed items, and so we'll move on to the report of the village manager, Mr. Recklass.
Nothing further tonight.
And anything from the board under petitions and communications? Seeing none, let me just say welcome back to our village manager. He got well rested, and he tells me he's almost caught up on his emails. So he's going to already hit the ground running after his time out of the office. And so also wanted to thank Assistant Village Manager Diana McCula for her good work during Randy's absence, as she always does. And so thank you, Diana, for your great work in keeping the ship afloat while Randy was out gallivanting in Spain. And so we very much appreciate both of them and all of their hard work. So if nothing further, Trustee Tinaglia.
Thanks, Mayor Hayes. Really quick, I just wanted to make a note that we have, one of our biggest festivals coming up here in the entire village for the 4th of July. It's Frontier Days. It's a 5-day event, and it's been going on since, I believe, 1978. It doesn't happen without volunteers. All the work that happens, they call themselves the red shirts. And if you see red shirts, these are just people working for no pay just to make sure this festival happens. And I'm just making the comment, I know we'll have another board meeting just prior to the beginning of that festival. It'll be the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, I think it is, or maybe it's the 3rd, 4th, 5th. It starts on the 3rd and goes through the 7th. And anything that anybody can do to participate in that, if you have some time, doesn't have to be all 5 days, it could be one day, it could be half a day. I know they would be appreciative. So you can contact, I believe, the Park District or the festival committee themselves. And it's not handled by this municipality here, our village. This is handled by volunteers. So get involved if you can. Some of these folks have been doing it for decades, and new, young people are needed. So please consider it.
All right, thanks, Trustee Tinaglia. Anything else from the board? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
By Trustee Baldino, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for joining us this evening.